Good afternoon, Tiger fans. I'm here with head basketball coach Forrest Johnson. Coach Johnson, thanks for taking a few minutes to interview with us, and got a couple quick questions for you. One being the state, of course, reclassified basketball, football, all the sports into 8As. How's that going to affect us this year?
Well, I think it's going to have a positive effect. We went from, playing some of the bigger, what are now 3A schools with, Mountain Heritage and Drawn. We're back to playing guys that are a little more our size with, Andrews, Robbinsville. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a little more parity. I don't think it's going to be quite as big physically. So I'm looking forward to it. I know the boys are looking forward to it, and we can't wait to get started.
Also, in addition to that, we went back to the Smoky Mountain Conference. It's not like we went to a new conference.
Yep.
We went to an old conference again.
Yep.
But how's that going to affect?
Well, there's Cole Cottrell still at Hayesville, Matt's Manley still at Andrews, Coach Beasley still at Robbinsville. I know Cherokee has a new coach. Well, he's not new. He's been around a little bit. Coach Cleveland he's been at Smoky Mountain Pisgah. So he's at Cherokee now. I know Swain has a new coach as well. So little differences, not, still familiar with most of those guys, great coaches. The conference is usually pretty strong from top to bottom. So it's going to be a battle every night, to compete in those games.
So who you kind of looking at as a conference, the strongest teams? How do you think this conference is going to play out this year?
Well, from my understanding, I'm not super familiar with how it was the last couple of years, but I know Murphy will be strong just from talking to some of the other coaches. Hayesville. They're going to be super disciplined. They're going to play hard. And, a couple of years ago, I don't know if they won a game or two in conference. They turned around and won a conference tournament. So, it's anybody's ball game. I know Andrews lost a lot, but they've got a really strong freshman class. And Cherokee's Cherokee. They're going to press you. They're going to run. They're going to shoot the basketball. And I'm sure with Coach Cleveland, they're going to be very disciplined. And I know Swain last year had some size, and I think they returned most of that. So it's going to be a battle. I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
So out of conference, who have we picked up out of conference? How's the schedule changed?
So the way they did the schedule this year is they kind of had all the Little Smoky Mountain teams built into the schedule, and then we had the option to schedule those guys again, which is what we chose to do. So we've got Blue Ridge twice, Highlands twice, Nantahala twice, and then we got Hiwassee Dam, I believe, twice as well. So that's kind of our non-conference schedule there, which we typically have played Blue Ridge and Highlands, and Summit Charter is another one. I forgot them. That we've played in the past. So little more parity there size of school-wise. I think we're kind of closer to some of those smaller schools than we are the big ones. But, is what it is. We're gonna lace them up and go out and compete.
Well, last year you struggled a little bit at times. You had a little bit of success. What kids are coming back? What did you lose last year? What's coming back to play?
So we graduated one senior, Dakota. He's never played before. It was his only year playing. Glad he came out. Enjoyed having him around. We did return almost everybody. We got a few boys decided not to play, but we have 2 sophomores on varsity, and then we've got five juniors and then 1 senior that came out after not playing the last couple of years. Glad to have him. Looking forward to seeing how the boys develop throughout the year because there's a few of them that haven't played before. We're really, really looking forward to how we can grow from start to finish with some of them.
I always ask this question to coaches. What can the fans do? I know coming out to the ball game, supporting the team, but is there anything they can do to help the program in any way?
So the biggest thing is community support in terms of encouraging the boys to play, and not just the high school boys, but, show up to the middle school, encourage the youth kids to, just play the game and be involved because, as well as I do here at Rosman, we got to have guys play multiple things. We can't specialize. And then we've got to be out there. We've got to have kids come out. And that's what kind of hurts us the last couple of years is, our first 4 or 5 would be solid and be able to compete. But then we didn't have, we had 2 or 3 on the bench and everybody else has another, 10 players. So numbers have kind of been a downfall for us the last couple of years. And, that's the biggest thing is just encourage the boys to play, come support them. And then, contribute to any fundraising opportunities that they may have. Right now, there's one going on. It's posted on the Rosman Tiger Basketball Facebook page. It's a vertical race fundraiser. The process is super easy. They click the link. They go on there and select the amount they want to donate, and that way we can afford to get new gear and new uniforms, kind of keep the boys excited, get a little more excitement around the program in terms of stuff like that.
So I just wanted to clarify what the coach said there. There is a Rosman Tiger basketball Facebook page. Information will be posted there.
Yes, sir.
Results from ball games,
game
etc.
schedule should be on there soon. We'll post results. We'll post awards throughout the week.
Okay.
Things like that. Game
right.
changes, stuff like that.
All right, Coach. I appreciate your time. I know you got to get to practice. Thanks for taking a few minutes to meet with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to it.
All right, folks, we're joined now by head JV basketball coach Alex West. This is Alex's first year as the JV head coach. He's been on the basketball staff several years here at Rosman, but thanks for taking a few minutes to sit down with us and
No problem.
talk about the upcoming season. I'll start with a couple questions I asked Coach Johnson. First question is reclassification. We went from 4A's to 8A's. And it really has an effect on 1A and 8A. What do you think the effect's going to be in basketball?
I think we've already seen a little bit of it in Rosman Athletics with the football program this year. Our volleyball program got a home playoff game. Our football program got a home playoff game. I think those benefits are huge for the kids to get to see that, see what hard work pays off, and you're going to get these home playoff games, have the community rally around you. But the other interesting part about reclassification is we're going to end up first with schools that are closer to our size, but also a sort of an interesting mix of public schools and private schools. In 2A through 7A, you don't really get this. But in 1A and 8A, you get these schools that are like specifically geared towards things. Basketball schools recruiting. Summit Charter in our conference is one of these that they can kind of recruit and do this. And so it is an interesting mix of you got your Andrews and your Robbinsville and you got your South Davidson and all the schools that the names that we know, but now you're going to see a lot of schools like Bonnie Cone Academy, like Summit Charter, like Macon Early College, and so names that fans may not be familiar with, which are in our classification now.
Well, the power of recruiting, just to kind of go back in history a little bit before the reclassification, in your time of playing and my time of playing, Asheville School and Christ School weren't competitive. They made Christ School several years ago made the national rankings in high school football.
Yep.
And Asheville School is one of the leading teams in basketball now.
Yep.
So that's the power of so a team can have 150 kids and they can all be recruited athletes.
Yeah, and that's so you think about it. We've got about 230 at Rosman, and it's a mix of kids in the community, and so our 230 is not necessarily going to be curated towards a specific sport. Whereas you go to an Asheville Christian, you go to a Summit Charter, and that's kind of what they're looking for. And specifically, Summit's an interesting one because they don't have a football program at all.
Right.
And so you find that in different places where Summit plays two male sports. I think they may play baseball, but I know they play soccer and basketball, and that's their whole thing. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of fun to see styles mix and all those kinds of things, but certainly not something we were used to. But I think our hope, as always, as with every sport, is let's get a home playoff game. Let's build off some wins.
Coach, one more thing that happened this year was that we were brought into a new conference. Not a new conference, an old conference, and we're old rivals. And how's that going to change versus the Western Highlands Conference?
Yeah, the Western Highlands Conference was geared a little bit towards basketball, a little bit more. Obviously Mitchell, a great football team, but Smoky Mountain Conference is known historically for being a legendary football conference. And I think that is reflected in the level of competition. You see a lot of kids whose names you've already seen in football season. You see a lot of repeats. You see a lot of these good players who are football players by nature, and I think that's also reflected in play style. It's a lot more physical. It's a lot more geared to be physical. And so I think that'll be interesting for our varsity guys who are kind of have now done both sides of the aisle. And for our JV guys, this will be kind of their introduction to the Smoky Mountain Conference style of basketball. I'm a little partial to it. I played in the Smoky. I really like it. I know, we're not necessarily known up and down for being the most legendary basketball conference, but the style of play is fun, and I think the kids will get a lot out of it.
So, out of conference, I know you picked up some Little Smoky teams, which are part of the Smoky as well. Anybody else out of conference that?
No, for JVs, Nantahala did not have a JV team, and I think Blue Ridge does not. Possibly they do, but most of our out-of-conference schedule is going to be Little Smoky, so we're going to play Blue Ridge, Highlands, Nantahala, Hiwassee Dam, and Summit Charter. And so that's really our whole out-of-conference schedule this year, and I think most of those teams are going to have JV teams, and so it'll be a good experience for the kids.
All right, moving into your team, one of the different – first, let me ask you a philosophical question, and we'll move into the specifics. But philosophically, it's a little bit different being a JV coach than being a varsity coach, because part of what you do is prepping kids to play at the next level, which is varsity. So what do you do differently maybe than Coach Johnson does day to day to prepare a JV team?
Yeah, a lot more emphasis on skills training. We only have 4 kids this year who really have any sort of high-level basketball experience outside of Saturday morning leagues and those kind of things. We only have 4 kids who've played in the program for any length of time. And so we spend a lot more time on how do you shoot a layup? How do you shoot a three-pointer? How do you box out? What is boxing out? How do you do this? How do you do that? And so a lot more of our practice is teaching. We always like that amount of time to go down over time, but the emphasis is teaching first. We can't get caught up in scheme. We can't get caught up in trying to figure out what defense works best to stop a specific kind of offense when we're really just trying to learn the basics of the game, especially with 6 kids who are coming to the game with little or no experience. That's fantastic. It's something we really love to see, but it does mean that we're playing catch up from time to time versus other programs.
From a JV coach's point of view, there may not be an answer to this question in the interview, but I just want the listeners to know that sometimes on game day, you get a player pulled out from under you to go play varsity.
Yeah.
What does that do to your mindset? I know you've been an assistant in the program. What does that do to your mindset as a JV coach when your number 1 guy, your number 2 guy gets yanked out to go play a varsity game?
Yeah, we have 2 kids right now who would be JV age. Braylon Owen and Eli McCall both would be JV age. They are varsity starters or spot starters or whatever you want to call them. And they both spend a little bit of time with me, not as much time as I'd like, of course, but and then we got a couple of kids as the year goes on who I think will become contributors at the varsity level. So it's really, there's what they call a 5-quarter rule. So a kid can play 5 quarters in a day, which means it doesn't matter how you break it up. It can be 4 JV quarters, 1 varsity quarter. It can be 3 and 2. It can be whatever. But that's the limit. And so Coach Johnson and I have to work pretty closely together to figure out how we're going to manage kids to make sure we get that 5 quarters, but more importantly than that, to make sure we get the kids the experience they need. Because Braylon's a great example of this. Braylon is a 2-guard on varsity. When he comes and he plays JVs, he's our point guard. And so what he's getting there is kind of cross-training. We want Braylon as an 11th grader, as a 12th grader, to be able to take the reins of the offense. Well, as a 10th grader, he's doing it on JVs while he's still playing a 2-guard. Of course, in our first game, Braylon, I think, was our leading scorer. So you can see the different idea of you have to facilitate for everybody else versus you're going to get your points the way you want to play. And so that's really the development that we go towards when it comes to JVs is what can we do to facilitate the growth of a skill that's not necessarily already there.
So talking about your kids, you talked about Braylon. Give me a little bit of a preview of your program, your kids.
Yeah, so we've got 10 kids right now who are full-time JVs, not counting Braylon and Eli. We have Isaac Nunez, who's a 9th grader. Isaac played football for us, and he's a big, tall kid. He played 7th and 8th grade last year. He's about 6'1", and he is going to be a guy who we're probably going to develop as a little bit of a wing player. He played a big last year for the 7th and 8th grade team, but he just is one of these guys that's multifaceted, fantastic defensive player, somebody we're really going to depend on to get us into our defensive mindset. Arlo Aceball is also a 9th grader. Arlo is another big kid, about 6'2", 6'3". Not a lot of basketball experience, but just a phenomenal athlete. One of these kids that we saw him practicing on the first day when he came out, and we were like, okay, all right, this is going to be a very good player with some hard work, which he's already put in. Sincere Thompson, transfer from Brevard. He came in and he's long, he's got good shot blocking instincts. He just adds to the genetic makeup of we're going to be a good defensive team. And his shot blocking ability is really something I think we may even see at a varsity level this year. He just really knows how to block shots, and he's got some learning to do to get there in terms of his offensive game, but his defense is already impeccable. We have Braylon Owen, and I know we have two kids named Braylon Owen. The one I was talking about earlier is a 10th grader. 9th grader Braylon Owen is he's a football player. He played football for us this year. He's a big, strong kid. Not a lot of basketball experience, but he's really working hard. He's a hard worker. He's somebody that all the kids enjoy being around as well. And so,
as a side note to that, I think people will enjoy the fact that his nickname is Tobo.
Tobo,
which stands for the other Braylon Owen.
Yep, T-O-B-O, the other Braylon Owen.
Sorry, Coach.
When you have two kids with the exact same name, spelled the same and everything, you got to have some distinctions. Preston Queen is another. I want to say Preston's 9th grader. I feel like my roster. I got to get smarter about it. But Preston has never played before. But man, you have not seen a kid work as hard as him to understand the concepts of the game, understand what he needs to do. He's really been working on his jump shot, and I think he's going to be a nice contributor for us. Bentley Rosso is a 9th grader. Bentley's a kid who has a lot of basketball experience, but not a lot of basketball experience in the program. Has played a lot in his life. He's going to come and play a little guard for us. Cashton Hudson played last year on 7th and 8th grade. Cashton is kind of a glue guy, do everything, can shoot, can rebound, can box out. And he's one of the guys that we really depend on for that institutional knowledge for play in 7th and 8th grade ball. How do you line up on a free throw? How do you line up on an inbound? All that kind of stuff. Bentley Stevens played last year. Bentley played varsity for us. We didn't have a JV program, so Bentley didn't get a ton of time. But he spent a lot of time learning around these guys. He's our team captain this year, and he's a guy who we're hoping can instill that knowledge at with this next group of kids. And then we've got Tyler Rollins. Tyler's an 11th grader. Tyler's a fantastic football player. We heard his name a bunch of times in that South Davidson game. I think he makes 11 tackles. Well, he decided at some point during the season he wanted to play basketball, and he'd never done that before. So Tyler's playing JVs for us right now. But let me tell you, you will not meet a harder worker, a guy who's out here before and after practice, absorbing things like a sponge, learning how to play. I anticipate they're going to take Tyler away from me about mid-season and probably moving up to varsity. But we're going to enjoy all the time we get out of him because he is a heck of a hard worker. And then our last guy on the roster is Colton Andrews. Colton, another one of these big, tall, long, lanky kids who can block shots and do a little bit of everything. He played a little bit last year, not a lot of experience, but another kid who we're very excited to have on the squad. So that's our 10 guys.
One more note, real quick question. It's been in and out whether you had a JV roster from year to year. Tell the folks what a benefit of having a JV basketball team full-time is to the program.
Yeah, so you can't really quantify the value of JV program in terms of like wins and losses. You quantify it in terms of experience. Having kids get into the game, and like I said, I was talking about Bentley Stevens and Cashton having that experience, knowing where to line up on a free throw, knowing how to do warm-ups, knowing how to get your mind right into a game. If you're a 9th grader who moves up because there's no JV team, you're not going to get a lot of minutes unless you're just one of these spectacular 9th graders. And whereas in a JV program, you're going to get more minutes. You're going to get an understanding of how to play the game. You're going to get to cut your teeth playing JV basketball. And so it can't be overstated, whether we win 10 games or we win 0 games, it can't be overstated how valuable the experience of playing games is for the kids and then by proxy for the program.
One more question. I'll let you get back to practice / 7th and 8th grade basketball game today. So a lot of things going on in the gym here, but I got one more quick question. And I asked Coach Johnson this, and I want to kind of get your perspective too. Other than coming to the games, supporting the kids, what can the fan base at Rosman, people who want to help the program, what can they do to help the program?
Yeah, there's a lot to be done. And I know with high school sports, it's always this way. Money is always. We're right now in the middle of our fundraiser, and we're trying to raise $1,800, and that takes care of everything from. We need new basketballs to this, to that, to making sure our kids get fed when we go on away games, making sure we've got a little spending money should somebody's shoes blow out in the middle of the season and it's possible they can't afford it. So this sort of discretionary budget on top of the things that we have to do. We have to feed the kids. We have to make sure we got basketballs. We have to make sure we got uniforms. We have to make sure this, and this. And then we need a little bit of discretionary funding. And so I think raising money is always one of the big things they can do. And then the other thing is we have not historically over the past 7 or 8 years been a great program. This year in football, the kids saw the value of the number of people who turned up to support the program and the experience inside the stadium. And I think if we can get that same kind of experience in basketball, a full crowd, those have turned games in Rosman history before, just having 250, 300 people sitting here in the stands has turned the timber of games before. And so I would like to see our kids get to see that community support. I played on a team that went 25-6 and was every game we played, from the Brevard game to the playoffs to everything, was standing room only. And you just can't overestimate how important that is as a player and as a fan and a community member in Rosman.
And one more thing, and I want to reiterate this from Coach Johnson's interview. There is a Rosman Tiger basketball Facebook page, and people can go there and find the schedule. They can find the results.
Yep.
They can find any fundraising opportunities. They can find ways to help the program.
Yep.
Anything else to add to that?
No, we hope to see everybody out. We hope to see supporting these young guys just as well as the varsity, and we really hope to build into the future here, which is something that, we're excited about.
All right, Coach, thanks for taking some time with us this afternoon.
All right, thank you.